Will you look at that? June 12th, the official Independence Day of the Philippines has just passed, and it looks like we're in for the possible start of a new era for the Philippines now that the 2022 presidential elections have concluded. Okay, for those of you who don't know, yes, I am a Filipino. I'll say it again. Natural Juan, the tabletop RPG, anime, book, and video game nerd, is a Filipino. Also, if you didn't hear it when I first started, Filipinos celebrate their Independence Day on June 12th. However, as you can probably tell, I'm not exactly in a celebratory mood. I wasn't even supposed to make this video as my job is very stressful and tiring and I can think of better videos to put up, but what the hell? Fact is, sometimes some things need to be said, no matter what other people might say or feel. Also, for those expecting one of my normal nerdy videos, this isn't going to be one of them, but I'll get right back to making more of them soon. Now, let's make things clear before I get this video started. Yes, my beloved countrymen, this is a political video. No, this is not about the president-elect, his allies, or his enemies. This isn't about our local politicians, even though a lot of people tend to point at them as the chief source of misery in this land of ours. No, I'm afraid this goes deeper than that and dives into more sinister implications in our culture itself. Also, this video is going to be a little preachy, and for that, I apologize. Now, if you aren't interested in political topics or aren't actually a Filipino, feel free to skip this video. This has actually very little to do with my usual topics like tabletop RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, books by Stephen King, anime in general, or anything nerdy. This does, however, have a little bit to do with horror, seeing as there is so much horror and sorrow to be had in the Philippines, even when it seems to be a tropical paradise to most foreigners out there. Anyway, I decided to put together this video to address some pet peeves that I have had with the Philippines, my beloved homeland, and give the people ruining it a piece of my mind. Okay, first off, I'd like to address the common issue of colonial mentality. This is going to be a little funny, but for time out of mind, the idea of colonial mentality has been the go-to for many Filipinos for the lack of nationalism and progress in the Philippines. They blame foreigners and the foreign culture that they bring with them for the societal ills that continue to plague the country since its inception. Well, sorry to break it to you, but I think it's just another symptom of a disease that runs deep within the flesh of our nation. After all, if you will offer a man bad, foul-tasting, and possibly poisonous food and a good and nourishing meal, he will very likely always choose the latter. The same can be said of our culture, and Filipinos who either choose foreign culture over our own or just migrate altogether to another country. So, before you start complaining about youths who prefer Korean music or American films, it's best to question our own culture and industries as well. Simply blaming colonial mentality for everything wrong in this country is similar to blaming your neighbors for your father being a Simply blaming colonial mentality for everything wrong in this country is similar to blaming your neighbors for your father being a jobless drunkard, your mother an apathetic gambler, and your siblings being violent jerks. It is always entirely possible that the problem lies within, and that we Filipinos have to make adjustments of our own if we want to be considered great by others. With that out of the way, I'd like to point out that if we want to find out what are the real enemies of this country, the real public enemy number one of the Filipino people, then I can name three right off the bat. Granted, we are not the only country with these three big problems, but I can't help but notice how these have been plaguing us for so long without actually thinking of a solution. Also, while I may offer suggestions as to how to deal with these issues, you are also free to think of your own, so long as they do not involve giving into these things. Also, while I may offer suggestions as to how to deal with these issues, you are also free to think of your own so long as they do not involve giving into these things and making the enemies of the state even more powerful. So, are you ready? First and foremost among the greatest enemies of the Philippines is envy. I know it sounds silly, but there is nothing more destructive and insidious in this country than just plain envy. For decades, perhaps even centuries, it has ruined much of the potential of many a Filipino. This is because many often wish the demise of others who have it better than they do. This despite the fact that the other person doesn't even bear anyone else ill will, or that they might even be friendly and helpful to the very people who secretly envy them. Again, while it might seem small to some people, it looms large in the hearts and minds of those under its sway, and has led to acts of slander, sabotage, and outright murder in some cases. Some people simply can't accept the truth that there will always be others who will have the better of something. One woman might think one woman might always be more beautiful or seen as more beautiful than others. A man might always be more wealthy than other men, or at least have more resources. One group or organization might perform better at a given task than any of the others. The list goes on and on. Like I said, for some people, this might be easily overcome, but is outright debilitating for others. There are countless stories of men killing each other over the affections of one woman, women destroying each other's reputations for the chance to gain a wealthy man's attention, and otherwise noble organizations falling apart due to an ongoing feud with one another or within themselves. Now, while this is now while this is now while this is co- now while this is com- Now, while this is common throughout the world, I am often astounded at how common this is within the Philippines and how a lot of people never seem to care how awful things can turn out for those affected. For those who are under the sway of envy or those seeking to help friends who are caught in it, I can offer two solutions. One is kindness. Yes, it's corny, I know it is. But you have to understand that destroying another person because of envy leads to the destruction of any progress made. While it may seem difficult at first, being kind and supporting someone you are envious of might even lead to some positive results, as the person you help might just help you in turn. The second I would offer is apathy. This is simpler and I know is something a lot of you might actually prefer to do if the envy is too strong. Ignore the other person and just do your thing. There's no need to antagonize them unless they try to harm you or something. Remember, harming someone who is doing better than you helps no one. There is no progress to be made. There's nothing to win, or nobody wins if you give in to envy. The second greatest enemy of the Philippines is idolatry. This is another issue that others might find dumb or laughable, but time and time again, I've seen the wrong people in the wrong line of work, which has led to much awkwardness, the failure of entire institutions, intense arguments that lead to physical fights between people who were otherwise friends before, and, of course, discontentment and anguish for everyone involved. Now, the idolatry I'm talking about has nothing to do with pagan gods, although they could, or popular young women known for their beauty and talent, though they can though they too can be candidates. What I'm actually referring to is how some people put certain celebrities, public servants, and religious leaders on pedestals and see them as the ultimate authority to everything. Though they can, though they too though they too can be candidates. What I'm actually referring to is how some people put certain celebrities, public servants, and though they too can be candidates. What I'm actually referring to is how some people put certain celebrities, public servants, and religious leaders on pedestals and see them as the ultimate authority to everything, even though they may lack the qualities to even make them good people. We can see this time and time again in how certain actors and actresses get elected into powerful positions despite being utterly incompetent at the job they were chosen for. Now, I'm not going to overlook the fact that some of these people might actually have good intentions or good people. Now, I'm not going to overlook the fact that some of these people might have good intentions or are actually good people altogether. What I'm saying is they probably aren't the cure all solution for a lot of people. Now, I'm not going to overlook the fact that some of these people might have good intentions or are actually good people at heart. What I'm saying is they probably aren't the cure all solution a lot of people assume them to be. No one knows everything. That is a fact. Not everyone will be good at everything. Now, some people might be very smart. They might be smart academically, but perhaps when they're in the field, they're not as smart, as practical, or as pragmatic as they need to be. Then there's your people who are good in the field, but are probably quite useless when they're finally in the office. So the list like that goes on. And not everything is for everyone. We need to remember that. So instead of putting people into pedestals and thinking that they're going to save everyone, see, that's the problem. We get this idea that certain people in our country are quote unquote superheroes. I would say that this is kind of dumb, and yeah, I'm at a loss for words. I've even gone off script now, but see, what really gets to me when it comes to this is that despite the fact that they say that, we are despite the fact that we're supposed to be, an advanced people already, that we're a developing country and all that, a lot of us still give in to the superhero idea. Now, not the literal superhero with the cape and the costume and everything. That's not the kind of. What I'm saying is, there are still people out there, especially in the Philippines, who think a superhero who might be a local political candidate like the mayor, or he might be an actor who plays a hero in a movie. They get this idea that that person has the solution, that that person can solve all their problems. Well, tough luck. That's not true. In fact, I'll tell you, a friend of mine told me that I'm not saying that actors and actresses are bad people. No, no, no. It's just that all acting is a form of lying. Yes, and there's no getting around that. All acting is a form of lying. How many times have you seen, the romantic leads say, I love you to each other, but in real life aren't actually married? They're married to other people. It's easy for them to say that because that's acting. Acting is just another form of lying. So when they promise you certain things, I'm not saying all of them are dishonest, okay? But it's entirely possible that they're just saying that so you'll go along with them. Now, again, I'm not going to judge anyone. They still could be good people, but there's probably a lot of them that aren't. Now, I know you guys out there might think otherwise, but we've been here long enough, my fellow Filipinos, and we know better. Not everyone who says that they want the best for us actually want that. It's easy for them to pretend. It's easy for them to project themselves as these helpful people who are like angels bringing relief goods and stuff like that. But, it's entirely possible that they just want you to like them so that you'll vote for them. I really wish you guys would learn from this. And the third greatest enemy of the Philippines is dishonesty. Dishonesty, it isn't just about lying about things, about lying to other people, or maybe even actually slander is a part of it. But you know, it's like this. You can lie to other people, but then I'll always say, don't lie to yourself. Because in the end, a lot of what we're doing is just lying to ourselves. Now, I'll say, yeah, the Philippines is developing, things are getting better, but, you know, don't lie to yourself about your situation. That's the worst thing you can do if you are in a bad situation. It's better to be honest with yourself. For example, if you're in an abusive relationship, now I know this is hard because I've been through similar things, and over time I've tried to be honest. I've tried to it took a while. It took a lot of my friends to convince me not to proceed with what I was doing. But it's easy to tell yourself that, oh, this person, this significant other, they love me. They're not gonna let go of me. But if you try to be more honest with yourself, you'll know that they, they never thought about your best interest. They're not doing anything that will really help you. They're more about helping themselves. So just please be honest with yourselves. As Filipinos, time and time again, we've always assumed the best of everything, and there's nothing wrong with being optimistic. There's nothing wrong with hoping for the best and doing what we can, doing the best we can every day to make the better of things. But it's also important that we remember that not everything is okay. There are still things we need to take care of. There's the fact that we have a very high amount of poverty in this country, and we still need to find ways to help those people if we can. I mean, we can't help all of them, of course, but remember, with all the disasters happening, the effects of the pandemic, affecting us badly and forcing us to do all kinds of things, we need to take those into consideration and assume that not everything is all right. You can't fix a problem until you acknowledge that there is a problem, okay? Things will never fix themselves on their own. A busted pipe in your plumbing isn't going to reseal itself with you just thinking the pipe will seal itself on its own or ignoring it. That's the dumbest thing you can do. Next thing you know, you have a busted sewer pipe in your house and there's all kinds of stuff erupting from your floor. A fire will not put itself out. That's another thing. If you know that meme with the dog with everything burning and he's saying everything's fine, there are a lot of people. There are some people I know who are like that. The house is already on fire. Things are already falling apart. But they won't acknowledge that this is what's happening. This is how bad it is. So please, guys, just be honest with yourselves. So anyway, that's it for this rant. And I know that I don't know. I'll probably make people mad one way or another. They'll either hate the way that I presented this whole thing, or they'll think that my language skills are really bad. I don't know, and I don't care. So, like I said, some things need to be said, and I just said them. So, thank you and goodbye. And for those waiting for my normal videos, I'll get to making them soon. Anyway, see you guys next time.